Hello, welcome to Laura's View and Tarot 2. I am so glad you're here. Today's date is Monday, July 24th, 2023. In this video, we're going to take a look at something Mr. T said and see if there's more to it than what it seems at surface value. Let me show you what I mean. I have a compilation I'll go to. You're welcome to follow it yourself if you click on the Facebook link at the bottom of this video description box. But if you don't care to do that, just listen closely, pause the video, see where I've stopped, what I'm mentioning, and you can recreate the search yourself. Okay, here we go. Recently, Mr. T was speaking about the crimes against little ones and how stopping that is vital. He mentioned the recent film, Sound of Freedom. 3 times during his talk, he used the word film instead of film. This got Anons speculating because unlike what the mainstream media would have you believe, this man is not a buffoon. When he has a mispronunciation or misspelling, quite often, if not 99% of the time, there's a reason for it. And if you dig a little deeper, you can ascertain what that reason is. Okay, so I have the link to the Truth Social video down here. Facebook would not let me put it directly in, so here's a link here. Now, here's some of the theories about why he might be saying Filum, as he did the 3 times in this 3-minute speech. Number one, he's done it before. In 2016, he used it in this speech that I have a link for here. When he used it here, it didn't create a lot of speculation. And there's also the theory that since his mother was of Scottish descent, and that's how they pronounce it, it may just be a carryover mannerism from his upbringing. Okay, now there's a couple of other speculations about what Filum might have meant. Number one, filament is a thin wire that gives off the light in a bulb called a filament. Maybe he was simply shining a light and saying he would continue to shine a light on this problem. There's an even more obscure, but I think it's kind of lovely possibility to why he said Filum. Someone said, read the book of Philemon. Okay, I'm not going to read the whole synopsis for you here, but what happened was Paul was in a prison, and this is one of his prison letters. He wrote it to his dear friend. And in it, he was kind of speaking up on behalf of a slave who had run away from his friend. Okay. Now, Philemon was his friend. Okay. The slave's name was I could say it before I started the video. Onesimus. Okay. Now, he asked him to forgive him for running away because he could have enacted a death penalty on him. He pointed out that while he was in fellowship with Paul, he had accepted the teachings that Paul was sharing, and that now he wasn't simply a slave, he was a brother in Christ. Now, they don't really tell you right then whether Philemon takes the advice to heart, forgives the slave, frees him, what have you, but Onesimus is later mentioned at the end of the book of Colossians as a faithful and beloved brother. That brought tears to my eyes because there has been some, in my opinion, justified closer looks at the people who made that film, Sound of Freedom. We're all fallible human beings. We live in an imperfect world. There's just no way around it. We all make mistakes. There is speculation that at least one of those gentlemen is already a version 2.0. I'm not going to read about that. I don't want to detract from the important message and the true contribution that that movie is giving to us. But I wondered, was Mr. T saying, we need to extend forgiveness. It's been sought. It's been given by someone far more than me. Was he saying we need to be ready to forgive those who've done this if they stop, if they face justice, if they turn around and help to stop this evil? I think those might be a little obscure possibilities, but they are ones that kind of warmed my heart, because I do believe that love wins and forgiveness is part of love. So let's ask the cards if there are insights or information to tell us why in a 3-minute speech 3 different times, or in other words, every time he used the word film, he said Filum. Was it filament? As in, we're shining a light on a huge problem and we're going to address it and we're not going to stop shining a light on it? Was it a reference to the book of Philemon, which a letter to someone who at that time could have enacted a death penalty, but he spoke up on behalf of forgiveness and even accepting, not just forgiveness, but accepting that slave as his brother? Or is there another reason entirely? Now, it's entirely possible that the universe is going to tell us, it's getting a little too obscure, you don't need to know. But the universe has been very, very, very generous with us, with our questions. So we're going to ask for insights and information about the use of that word. Was it simply the way it's normally pronounced by him? He does have a history of it. Filament, Philemon, let's find out. As you can see, I have a free co-host. Come on, it's good, please. You can have the table back in just a few minutes, okay? All right. Insights and information about the use or the pronunciation of the word film. You can come back in a little bit. Go, 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 go. It's good. It's good. Thank you. Okay. We still have a tail in the screen. Hey, we'll make do, right? So what's going on with the pronunciation of the word film as film 3 different times? Our first card is string. Ace of Cups. The Hierophant. Knight of Wands. 8 of Cups. High Priestess. Temperance. Wow, this is an interesting spread. Now, here's the insights I'm getting, and I'll share with you what elements the cards lead me to that. It wasn't such an obscure tangent or rabbit trail to think that there was a reference to forgiveness with the word Filum, because one of the main meanings of the strength card, which is what is the situation indicator here, is forgiveness. Forgiveness. And Ace of Cups is about love and potential. So Mr. T was extending or making very clear, emphatic, because there's power in the number 3, that he was forgiving someone, that forgiveness had been achieved. Doesn't mean that there wasn't a price to be paid for whatever was forgiven, but forgiveness was theirs. Okay. In the recent past, we have the Hierophant showing up. He's now he can be a deep state card for me, but he's also kind of about structured, traditional avenues of wisdom and insights. He doesn't think outside the box very well, though. And he's kind of like, don't research, just follow me. Okay, so the Hierophant is an influence in the recent past. Okay, and so we've got the forgiveness and love going on here. The Knight of Wands kind of is a nod to the white hat, alliance element. of this situation. So that's why I'm saying there's some forgiveness that's been extended. And it's one of the elements of it is from the White Hats of the Alliance. The Knight of Wands, though, he's one of my White Hat cards that he's not my strongest one. So it's simply an element of it. Now let's look ahead at the near future. Here's another card that talks about seeking meaning, going in a new direction, which kind of bolstered my thought that the reference of Filum 3 times had to do with forgiveness. And someone has made some huge contributions that has helped have them achieve that forgiveness or reprieve or whatever has happened for them. Now, I'm not going to speculate on who it has. I just get the distinct impression it is someone associated with the making of Sound of Freedom. Okay. The insights cards about the seeking new meaning and turning away. So someone turned to a whole new path. Okay. They're trying to make meaningful contributions from this point on. The High Priestess talks about sometimes it's psychic abilities. And, you know, psychic abilities are sometimes indicated with the Ace of Cups too. But more often than that, the High Priestess talks about the duality of life, information, situations. You know, there's dark, there's light. In this card, there's balance. She's behind a very thin veil, so there are insights and truths that are going to be coming out. They're not quite readily available yet, but they're there. The Temperance card is always one. Temperance just kind of means what it says, you know, just having some reasonable expectations, not being overly enthusiastic or exuberant or what have you, just being very, very practical. So it was a practical concern for them to forgive. It was an act of love and growth to forgive. And whoever received this forgiveness, and like I said, I think it was someone associated with that film, it had to do with the fact that they've truly committed themselves to a new path and to meaningful contributions. Let's get a couple more cards here, see if we can get some final insights. We have the Star, 17th Major Arcana. It is my ultimate Alliance 17 card. White hats. So yeah, it's white hat related. That means it's definitely has to do with the little ones, innocent life, things like that, the protection of same. Absolutely. And then the final card we have here was Page of Pentacles. And that is one about worthwhile effort. So it's worthwhile. We know protecting innocent life is worthwhile. Someone is contributing some worthwhile effort to that cause. Again, having turned to a whole new way, and providing some very valuable contributions that have led Mr. T to encode, speak of forgiveness. So let's recap. We were curious about why Mr. T recently used the phrasing film or the pronunciation film when he was speaking of film, the Sound of Freedom movie that he recently had an airing of on the 19th, I believe. So Anons were speculating, is it code? Now we looked at some possible reasons before we asked the cards. Not that they were all inclusive, but just some that had come up in discussion on anonymous discussion boards. One was the fact that film could refer to filament, which is what is used to shine a light on something. Was Mr. T simply talking about shining a light and continuing to shine a light on this horrible crime and to put an end to it? That's reason enough right there. We looked at the fact that it's not the first time Mr. T has used that pronunciation. He did in a campaign speech in 2016. So is it simply just a mannerism? And then I thought we were getting a little obscure. We looked to whether it was a reference to the Book of Philemon in or the epistle in the New Testament, which was a letter from Paul while he was in prison, asking his friend Philemon to forgive a slave that had run away, come to Paul, and had had a conversion and a change of heart and direction. And so we entered the read. I was thinking that was the most obscure of possibilities. That actually ended up being the one that seemed to get the nod. I say that because the situation was indicated by the strength card. And one of the main meanings of the strength card is forgiveness. The Ace of Cups clarified the strength card, and the Ace of Cups is about love. And love and forgiveness go hand in hand. The recent past card was the Hierophant, which in the course of this reading wasn't necessarily a deep state indicator, but just simply something to talk about that he can also indicate some wisdom, even though it's rather structured. So it was a wise decision that seems to be, this was the present card. Not one of my strongest white hat cards, but definitely a white hat alliance card. The near future card talks about a turning point. It's going in a new direction, which would make sense. If someone was forgiven, they must have shown that they were willing and would continue to be moving and working in a new direction. Insight cards included the High Priestess. High Priestess often talks about some hidden information that's close to the surface, ready to be revealed, getting really close. Also duality. And there's some balance here. Both of these black and white columns are exactly the same size. So just an indication that, yeah, we all have some two parts to our nature. Which are we going to explore? Which are we going to allow to flourish? Okay. And just a reassurance that whatever was being talked about in code here would eventually be much more clearer to us. The Temperance card showed up. Temperance card was the other one of our other insight cards. And that's just a card that means pretty much what it says. You know, it's being moderate in what you, so whoever received this forgiveness, and I think it's someone associated with Sound of Freedom, based on what they contributed and will be continuing to contribute, their expectations have been, they were moderate in how they handled it. So whoever got that forgiveness didn't get everything they initially tried for, but they got the forgiveness. We had the Star show up as some of our final insight cards, my ultimate 17 card, because it is the 17th and it is a major arcana. And it is a card that indicates hope, joy, love, all good things. Page of Pentacles was the final card that showed up. And when the Page of Pentacles shows up, he usually indicates a worthwhile effort, that something is definitely worthwhile. So, and as we know, the protection or rescuing of innocent life is absolutely a worthwhile effort. So, according to what the cards told me, Mr. T was making a coded communication that involved just declaring some forgiveness for someone. Moderate forgiveness. It wasn't quite everything they had hoped for, but moderate. There was some forgiveness given. And it was given in love. And it was given with full knowledge of what they were forgiving. So that's it for this video. Thank you so much for your time and attention, for subscribing, for liking my videos, and just being part of this journey as we look at events and try to look behind the curtain of some events and just keep our minds and hearts open in this incredible time for humanity. Until next time, love, light, and everything bright.